Good evening, everybody. I'm Liz Scott. As chairperson of Arts at Clark, together with Library Director Gail Bogle, who was just speaking, and this evening's presenter, Carole Abbate, we would like to welcome you all to Clark Memorial Library's third Artists in Conversation event in 2022. The goal of this remote program, which we started in 2021, is to provide a connection between local artists and the Bethany community. Before I introduce our guest artist, I would like to mention a few things. First, the Clark Memorial Library and Arts at Clark are planning our third annual outdoor art exhibit to be held on Sunday, August 14th. Rain date is August 21st, right here on the beautiful library grounds, a family-friendly event for the Bethany community and beyond. The theme this summer is Beyond the Beaten Path, and we are looking for artists who wish to exhibit. More info is available through our website, bethanylibrary.org, and then by clicking on Arts at Clark. Second, once the children's room renovations are complete, monthly art exhibits will resume inside the library starting in January 2023. So if you know of any artists who would like to exhibit, please have them contact the library. Third, in just a few minutes, Carole will give her presentation. Please keep your mic muted throughout her presentation. Afterwards, there will be time for questions, comments, and discussion. You may also use the chat feature anytime to write comments or questions during the presentation. So now, please let me tell you a little bit about tonight's guest artist. Tranquil scenic views, quiet moments with God's creatures, or a moment of fantasy, Woodbridge artist Carole Abbate can paint in a way that draws you into the painting and makes you want to be there and stay a while. Carole has been painting for over 40 years, but only sporadically during her early years, as her time was divided between family, a nursing career, and farm life. Now, since moving from Eastern Washington State to Connecticut, she can devote full time to her painting. Ever expanding her mediums and techniques, Carole works in acrylic, oil, pastel, and watercolor using the medium that best suits the subject. She says, "My largest sources of inspiration are God's creations, adding a bit of my own imagination to the mix. I lived in the Pacific Northwest for 45 years, where I was fortunate enough to have horses, donkeys, llamas, sheep, goats, pigs, ducks, geese, chickens, dogs, cats, and one parrot, not all at once. I was also surrounded by wildlife and scenic country. I moved to Connecticut in 2013, and I find this state to be incredibly beautiful and inspirational." Please welcome Carole Abbate. Okay, Carole.
Thank you so much, Liz, for inviting me to share my journey. And thank you, Gail, for helping, well, being the major person to get this going. People often ask me, how did you learn to draw? Did you always like to draw? And I remember always liking art as a child and took classes in junior high, but my high school was very small and there were no art classes. I did draw for the school newspaper and yearbook. I went on to nursing school, which didn't offer art, of course, but I illustrated the yearbooks. It wasn't until 14 years later, in 1980 to 81, that I began taking night classes in watercolor, and that's how it all began. The instructor was an excellent watercolor artist and a good teacher, always stressing the fundamentals of painting. So this gave me a good foundation. I took this class for 5 quarters and then started showing my work, first at mall shopping center art shows, and then decided to be brave and submit paintings for entrance into the real art shows. Spokane was the home to the prestigious MONAC, which stands for Museum of Native American Culture, Western Art Show that took place annually and drew Western artists from all over the Western states. Enormous crowds came to see their work. So when I got accepted, I was thrilled. And that's me looking very young and very naive, but I was at the big show. The other big show I was in Omak, Omak, Washington, and it was called the Omak Western Art Show, and it ran the same time as the Omak Rodeo in Omak, Washington, which is in central northern Washington. While I was at the art show, my husband would be over at the rodeo taking action shots of cowboys and all the rodeo activity. Then I would use those photos to paint for the next year's show. This painting is a colored pencil, and it's called Behind the Chutes, and it depicts a cowboy, several different cowboys actually, as they prep for the bull riding event.
Wow,
that awesome. That took a prize from the OMAC, and it's I enjoyed doing that one. It was quite big too. And this painting depicts a bull rider, again, a colored pencil. And I painted this for and presented it to the officials of the rodeo as a thank you for allowing my husband to take all those photos. This is me presenting it to the president of the rodeo. This was in 1986, and I was a mere 41 years old.
40, wow.
I know. These two shows influenced the subjects of my paintings. So I was leaning towards the Western art, cowboys, wildlife, livestock. And as an animal lover myself, owning several horses, chickens, dogs, and cats, I thoroughly enjoyed this line of painting. So these, you'll be seeing paintings during this time.
Wow, it's awesome. Be still and know that I am God.
Yes. This painting was actually done in the 80s, but then I was able to digitalize it and then print it later. And with Photoshop help, then put this scripture, biblical scripture on, which I was just very pleased with.
Look at the baby deer. Oh, look at that.
This is a Brahma cow and her calf. And as you know, they use Brahma bulls for the bull riding contest. Well, someone's got to provide those bulls. So this was a fairly renowned Brahma ranch that commissioned me to do this prize cow. This is watercolor. And just some miscellaneous. That's my daughter. She was about 8 years old holding a chipmunk, and some morel mushrooms, some other little farm animals, all watercolor so far. Oh, guess who this is? E.T. If you don't recognize him, that was about this time, and I just could not help but paint him. He's just a cutie. I love barns, and there's plenty of barns in Eastern Washington. I made this one dramatic. Another barn. Oh, there's my little colt Chalise. He's helping me paint on the right, and this is the cat actually wasn't there, but I made the cat be in the painting for that. Here he is helping me really close. Now, I always am fascinated by rusty old tools. So we had these tools, and I hung them on the side of the barn and took pictures of them, and then painted them. This is my farrier on the right, and I painted that of him, and then I bartered for him. So I gave him the painting, and he gave me lots of shoeing after that. So I love to barter. This is another Wild West watercolor. Oh, here on the left is a Mountain Bernese. Is a friend of mine. I did this for commission, and on the right, one of my many colorful roosters. And Those are orca whales in the Sound of Seattle. And the one on the left is my first underwater that I tried. And again, after painting it, then I would put it on Photoshop and could add a scripture to it. That's from Psalms. And on the right is a little mare and colt that I took pictures of at a Arabian ranch. Oh, and I believe my friend now has this painting. It's in Walnut Creek, California now. And that's an oil of my daughter's cat. And these are various commissions people would ask me to do. Beagle on the left, a little Pekingese on the right. The left is oil, the right is watercolor. Aha, this is Jose, my friend Hanlor's cat, back in the late 80s, I think. Again, colored pencil on Canson paper. And on the left, a portrait of my friend's daughter's teddy bears. And so I propped them up, took pictures, and then painted them. And on the right, just a depiction of early morning sunrise with the chickens. This was part of a mural I did in my church in Spokane. It was after the Noah's Ark had landed, and this is just a section of it. And I did the camel, the raccoon, and the moose. It was huge. It was great mural. This is Manitou Park in Spokane. This sort of depicts a nouveau type of art. Oh, and this is one of the few human portraits I've done, and this was done in a workshop. The 90s brought big changes to my personal life, so I had to return to nursing to support myself and my daughter. And this brought my painting time down near to zero. So we skipped 10 years about. And then in the 2000s, other changes allowed me to go on part-time nursing. So I became a hobby farmer, meaning you support your livestock, they don't support you. So I obtained Shetland sheep, an alpaca, some goats, and I've always had chickens. I wanted goats because of a recent diagnosis. I went on a health kick and wanted to eat as natural as possible. So I learned to milk goats and make cheese and drink very fresh goat's milk. Starting to paint again, but sporadically. My subject matter shifted over to farm animals, and I also did pet portraits. And there's me and Joshua, my first llama. And the llamas were not for the fleece or anything. They are very good protectors of goats. They hate coyotes, and we had coyotes over there, so they would be around to attack. They could kill a coyote, which they've done. This is me with several of my little goats. These are Nigerian dwarf goats. They're very, very good goats. They're small, easy to handle, and give wonderful milk. One of my cool roosters on the left and two little kid goats on the right. This is Jelly Bean up on Whitney, one of my other alpacas. And then on the right, this is very unusual. My doe gave me 5, that's quintuplets. And that's extremely rare. Usually they have, twins. Triplets, okay. Quadruplets, rare. Quintuplets, very rare. It was like she had a litter. It was awesome. And they all nursed. She had a lot of milk. This is one of the most unusual paintings I've done. Well, I've done a lot of unusual ones, but a young man came to me and he had just completed a rafting trip, and he brought to me his paddle. And this is his paddle. And he said, could you please paint a scene of me on the trip? So I did. I used acrylic. I put down gesso first on the paddle, and You can't see him very well, but he's down in there in the white water. And now, if you've ever heard me say I painted horses, I do. I also paint on horses. And this was a 4-H horse camp preparing for it. Asked me to paint the horse's skeleton on a horse. She was a practice horse. We did it later on a bay mare that it showed up a lot better. This was so when the kids would watch the horse walk, trot, canter, they could see the movements of the muscles and, well, actually the bone structure better. That was very tricky. Haven't done that yet. Here are 2 chickadee paintings done probably a decade apart. Different, you can see the one on the left is older and the right is newer, both watercolor. Oh, this is my neighbor in Spokane, well, Colbert specifically, and it was her 2 quarter horses. She asked for a portrait of them. So as we do a lot of times, I use 2 different photos, put them together, and then in hand made the background to match, to look good composition. And there's a cowbird on the horse's rump. This could be anywhere in Montana or northern Idaho. It's a beautiful, beautiful country out there. The one on the left was, was in touch with the Nigerian Dwarf Association, and they asked me if I could paint them a painting that would then be put on a mug. So I did this for them, and it is on a mug. It came out cute. And again, a rooster. I had a lot of roosters to help me paint those. Okay, then this is Sierra, German Shepherd of one of the artists from whom I took a workshop. I became really interested in pastel painting, especially of animals, because you can just get some beautiful fur effects. So I took several workshops from 2 different artists that worked in pastel and did animal portraits. And this was invaluable to me. I was now able to capture those pets and animals like I wanted. So these next couple slides are all pastel. And these are done on velour, which is like velvet. It's not velvet, but it's called a velour board. It gives you can put up to 16 layers on it with the pastels. This is Big Red quarter horse. Not mine, it was a commission. Oh, and that's Bumble on the left, my daughter's cat. She's still alive. And Lucy on the right, my neighbor's daughter's cat. And this was for a company called Cougar Wireless that was in Spokane. They asked me to do a logo for them. El Lobo, a wolf. This is one of the few non-animal pastels I did. And that's back to acrylic. And I did this for a friend down in California. And just some farm life. And this one I did it was to raise money. It was in Deer Park. I think I gave it to, forget who I did this for. But anyway, I have used this painting. I made prints from it. Now I do miniatures using the same design. It's very popular. And then in 2007, I was accepted into the Spokane Watercolor Society and started showing again. In 2009, I became president of the Spokane Watercolor Society for 3 years, and I showed in multiple shows and attended more workshops. Also during this time, I started teaching and drawing and painting, my church would hold special teaching sessions for the homeschooling families. And one of these was art. So I taught multiple classes to different ages. I also taught private lessons in my home, both teenagers and adults. And these are both watercolors. That's Jelly Bean on the left, and just a nearby barn in my neighborhood in Spokane, Colbert. This is after I moved to Connecticut, and it took me a while to get back into painting. 2013, I moved to Connecticut. My more life changes allowed me to move to Connecticut to live close to my daughter. That was a huge disruption of my life, but well worth it. It took quite a while to get back into painting, but I did. In 2017, I joined Cheshire Art League and started showing again. This is another pastel I did for my granddaughter's teacher. And it says 14, so that was in 2014. This is just a miniature, actually 2 by 4 inches, and this was acrylic, just seeing if I could do it. And that's I did for my church in Southington. It was to have some posters for the women's ministry to support, inspire, serve, teach, encourage, respect, and share, which spells sisters. Sisters in Christ. This was a thank you that I did for a gentleman that it would take me and his girlfriend flying, and I just love flying, but that was a special thank you for his little Cessna. And this was just sort of a practice pastel painting. I did it from a book, so I can't sell it. It's just a practice. Oh, this is interesting. I don't know if you remember, but back in 2017, there was this famous giraffe. Her name was April, and she was online, and she was in not really a zoo, it's an animal place in northern New York. And she was, had her own spectators from all over the world watching her while she was in end stages of a pregnancy, and then went into labor. And she finally had her baby giraffe, and everything was fine. But this just inspired me. That's why I'm doing a giraffe. I have never been to Africa, although I would love to, but I haven't. So this just shows, I mean, where's my little crayon? This is, beginning sketches, first layer paint, and then second, third, fourth. There was a lot of in-between ones. I just put out 4 of them. And on the left, some monarchs. On the right, this is called Color of Music. And that's now hanging in Northwest Washington State. And on the left, an acrylic polar bear. I just thought he was cute, so I painted him. And this is on the right, watercolor of a saw wet owl that hang around Washington a lot. I don't know if we have them in Connecticut, probably. They're a very small owl, hard to see because they're small and they hide. And this is a pastel of a lab drinking out of a water faucet. Okay, then in 2018, I undertook one of the most interesting painting challenges in my life. Southington has a huge apple harvest festival, and this was their 50th anniversary of that. SOCA, which stands for Southington Community Cultural Arts, decided to raise money for local I can't ever say this word, philanthropic groups by having local artists paint 20 whole apples and 20 apple cores, which were sold to sponsors. These were 3-foot tall white fiberglass apples. Carabin Farms, who have apple orchards, chickens, and Scottish Highland cattle, chose me to paint an apple for their farm. So they would put out the money to SOCA. We got a stipend from SOCA. And anyway, there was a lot of artists involved in this. So here's some photos to enjoy. Here, my daughter's on the left helping me get this giant apple upstairs to where I was going to paint it. There's me relieved to have it finally upstairs. And then I'm doing sketches, trying to get ideas of what's actually going to go on this apple. And then I have, of course, I had to get a real apple to make sure I got the colors right. So that's the bottom of the apple. And wanted to do this right. So I always like to get, and this is the top of the apple, obviously. Now I painted the whole thing with a blue background, and then I took circumference of the apple, laid out the big strip of paper, got all my drawings on it, and so I could make sure it was going to fit. And there's the Scottish cow. This on the left is not complete, obviously. On the right, it's complete. Here's the back of the apple, showing they have the apples and the pumpkins. And then here's finishing up another side of it. And so I would draw it all on the paper and then transfer it. It's got graphite paper behind that. Transfer it onto the apple before I would paint it. And so here it is to the left, that's the back complete. In the right, that's at Soka in their window. And here on the left, I'm at Soka. It was a night celebration. All the apples were there and all the artists were there. That was fun. Now on the right is the Apple Harvest Parade. And there I am with the apple, and all these other people are people that family and workers at the Carabin Farm. And there it is at Carabin Farm, up high, so little hands can't get to touch it very much. Okay, then at this time, my other paintings varied in subjects and mediums. And here is the summer show. Oh, no, not yet. This is an acrylic I did for my dentist. He wanted me to do a picture of him fishing somewhere in a beautiful location. So I call this my crowning achievement because, again, I bartered, and he gave me a crown and I gave him a painting. It was very good. He loves it. It's in his office. It's Dr. Fletcher in Cheshire. And everyone loves this painting. I'm very happy with that one. Here is the summer show at Clark Memorial Library in June of 2019. There's Liz on the left and introducing us. On the right, that's my granddaughter pointing up to one of my paintings. And then I moved to Woodbridge in the summer of 2019, and I started loosening up my style and did some ferny fall paintings. And I actually, for some of these, I actually took ferns and leaves and dipped them in paint and applied them right onto the canvas. It was sort of cool. We'll have to try that in art class, everybody. That was fun. And then in the January of 2020, I had a friend in New Hampshire commission me to do her house. She sent me photos of her house over here. And then she sent me this long list of things to change, different plants she wanted here or there. So this was a challenge, but she was happy with it. Now this one was from a friend whose family had a farm in Illinois. This picture was taken in 1942, and it's their family farm, corn farm. They probably raised other things too. Uh-oh, what did I do? Go back. Nope. So he wanted me to paint a picture. So this again was a challenge because, as you see, it was cut off half. I mean, you can't even see her arm, her hand. So I had to add onto it. And then turned it to color. That was the easy part, but he was very pleased with it. And then in December of 2020, the Woodbridge Art Guild was asking for, I was a member by then, asked for anyone that would give a Zoom lesson. So I did one on composition. And as you can see, it was hosted by the Woodbridge Art Guild. And this is still available on YouTube under Woodbridge Art Guild. So if you want to watch that, it's quite good. I can't take credit for it, I just put it together because I used a book. I got permission from the author of the book. And it is a really good one on composition. Now, this was the first year of COVID, so there weren't many shows. So painting slowed down, but I doodled and sketched and played. And then this is jumping to May 2021 and the Cheshire Art Show. And I'm showing, standing below my painting called Day Spring. It's an acrylic, and it took People's Choice in that show. This is Day Spring. I had fun with this because it's acrylic and you can't tell here, but I did a lot of buildup on that tree on the left, so it's very textured. I did the same on some of the rocks. Let's see. Oh, then for living in these beautiful woods in Woodbridge, I got inspired to do woodland painting. So I really worked on this. This is a big 24 by 30 inch, and I wanted a fox in it because we have foxes around here. So this is Woodbridge Woodlands, it's called, and I had to put in a little gnome in there, if you can see him. And I took a best of show from the Painted Path Art Gallery in Woodbridge in July 21 for that. So I was very happy about that. And here's Wonky Donkey. I painted him first back in 2018, but he was always looking lonely. So then I added a gnome, and so now it's called Wonky Donkey and Farmer Friend. This is a mixed media. Started off in watercolor, switched over to acrylic. So, and it's on a type of a board. And in July of 21, I started the art class at Trinity. And here's the first class. This is a panoramic of the class. And I love it, and they love it. And it's still going. And hopefully, Lord willing, it'll go on forever and ever. Here is Arts at Clark Memorial Library Reemergence Show, August of 2021. It was a beautiful day. A lot of people showed up. A lot of beautiful art was there. And she's going to have it again this year. Is that called? Yeah, Reemergence. Okay, and then in September 21, Crest Lincoln, downtown Woodbridge, Crest Lincoln has this beautiful showroom, but their new cars were not coming in because of all the delays in automobile manufacturing, etc. So they asked Woodbridge Art Guild if there were any artists that would like to show their work for several months. And so myself and another artist said, yes, we would. So September through November, I showed my art there. And that Day Spring painting up here hung on their wall. And the day I collected my paintings in November to take them back, they didn't want to let this one go. So they bought it from me, which was pretty cool. So it's still hanging there, and I was happy with that. This is in October 21, and that's on the left, right outside the library. And I was participating in Diversity Day, showing all different cultures and clubs. And I represented the Woodbridge Art Guild. And on the right, just people milling around, having fun. And this is an oil painting of Skagit River in actually Northwest Washington. And just to tell you, I had these photos from the late 80s, and I keep photos forever. These were like, we didn't have digital photos, these were like real photos. And I finally, years later, got around to painting it. And this one actually took 7th place in the Cheshire Art Show this month. Then in the fall of 21 was the Cheshire Art League Art in the Garden. I showed there, but I really had to hustle around because most of my paintings were still at Crest Lincoln. So I pulled out prints, I did some miniatures and showed. And this is Arts Place Market in November. And we were to have medium to small prices. That was fun. I sold several pieces there. This is a painting I did out of love for my son-in-law's mom, because this is Casey, her prized Doberman pinscher, and she had just lost him several months before. He was getting to be up in ages, and I just did this as a surprise. It was her birthday in December, so I painted this for her. She was very overtaken by it. And this was a commission painting I did for a Belgian Malinois for a gal in Southbury. This is oil. And this spring, I started experimenting with designs. It was first inspired by what is called neurographic art. And this was very freeing and relaxing and allowed me to loosen up and open up my imagination to new possibilities. I had fun with these. I'll do some more. They're just fun. This one is called New Life. It's 11 by 14 mixed media. This was the third attempt of trying to paint what was floating around in my imagination. It's still not exactly what I wanted, but close. Although it's 95% watercolor, I still needed to call it mixed media because there is some acrylic and some other paint pens used. I wanted to frame it without glass, so did an arduous varnishing technique I learned from Golden Paint Company. I really like this technique because it makes it permanent. There's no glass. You can see it right up close. And this is being shown along with that oil of the river currently. The Cheshire Art League show is going on and will go on until the end of the month. I gotta remember to pick up my paintings. So this last year has been the best because I'm teaching and sharing what I love to do. I'm teaching at the Woodbridge Senior Center on Mondays. I'm teaching privately Tuesday morning. I teach at my church, Trinity Church in Woodbridge, Wednesday morning. And teaching is my biggest joy because I'm sharing what I love to do. And teaching has also proven to be the best thing for my painting skills because I'm brushing up and improving and learning new skills so I can pass them on. And that's it. And I made it. Woo! Can I have a drink of water now?
Very nice. Let's check the chat and see what we have. Somebody wrote, "You were a great teacher." Oh, Sandy, everyone. "You were a great teacher." And then Sheila to everyone, "All your paintings are so beautiful." And then again, Sheila, "Awesome. It was so fun to see all your pictures."
Thank you.
And, so does anybody else have any comments or questions or?
Well, I, for one, she's an awesome teacher. And she's just so encouraging. You know, people think they can't do something, she'll show them that they can. And that's really, you know, sharing your talent. You know, she's awesome. She's an awesome teacher.
Thank you. Thank you, Judy. I'm curious, who's William's phone?
I don't know.
I don't know either. William's iPhone.
Somebody else writes in the chat.
Hi, it's Marge Lynch. I just unmuted myself. Nancy's friend. Hi.
Oh, hi, Marge.
Oh, your pictures are magnificent.
Well, thank you.
Just
So
beautiful.
Marge is from Missouri.
Yes, I am. Yeah. And just joined because of my friend Nancy and found out about Carole. These are fantastic paintings.
Thank you, Marge.
Oh, just beautiful. Thanks for sharing.
Oh, you're welcome.
Thank you so much. It's magnificent. It really is. So that's who I am. I just we're in the middle of eating, so we thought we better not put our video on.
I understand.
Okay.
So someone else in the chat wrote, "A lovely retrospective, Carole." Hannah, that was from Liz Augustine.
Oh, Liz. Hi, Liz.
And then Hannah-Laure Harwood
Yep.
wrote,
Yep.
"Loved every minute."
Great.
And I really enjoyed seeing all the animal paintings. They were just so much fun. All the animals and the fact that you did them in pastel. The pastel ones were especially really good, but you know that you can do these in acrylic and watercolor and pastel and oils. You know, it's you know, good for you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Anybody else? So how many people here are from her classes? All right.
I, for one, Judy.
Yeah.
I'm in her class.
So three or four of you are from her classes. That's great. That's good.
Do I count? I was one of her students many years ago.
Yes, you count, Sandy. That was in Washington. That was like, that had to be 2011 or 12. I can't remember.
I don't know.
I don't either.
Who knows? Yeah. My grapes, however, are hanging up over a bar.
Okay.
In my
cool.
parents' place.
All right. Good.
So Sandy, you just wrote to everybody, "I love going down memory lane and seeing the farm again."
Yes. Yeah. I love the goats. I love those goats.
They're special.
So anybody else?
It's always neat to see where the inspiration comes from, either a writer. I've seen a writer do something like this and talk about where they come from. So it's neat to see, where you came from, why you changed the different things. That is really, makes it more interesting, and more great.
Because it is.
Yes.
It's a journey, and you.
I don't know whose that is, not mine.
No.
Oh, Mom, meds are in the usual spot.
It's Lynn. There you go. But yeah, it gives so much more meaning to the paintings here, and you talk about where it came from.
Yeah. Yeah.
And what
Good.
inspired you and where you were in your life. It just
Right.
It enriches it. Yeah.
Right. And I'll have to say that my inspiration has changed or deepened since I become a Christian in 92. It's just deepened it. It's wonderful. And you have this, as you'll know, as you become more of an artist, you just have this inner drive. You want to save this magic moment that you see that's so beautiful, and you want to put it down, and it never leaves you. It's great. Well, thank you everyone for coming.
Okay, nobody else has anything to say? I just wanted to say that, Carole, I just think it's wonderful that, you know, that here you are later in life and you're teaching and, you know, and you're learning new things. So it's like, it never ends. It's like artists go right until the very end. They just keep right on going and coming up with new ideas. And, you know, I've seen artists, you know, even older than us, completely change what they do in their artwork, you know, like at age 90. And, you know, I know a woman who went from realism to abstraction at age 90, using up all her old artwork, tearing it up and using it in collage. And her last collages were just the most amazing things, you know, that, so, you know, it just keep on going, you know, it's great.
It does.
Yeah.
Well, has anyone gotten back to me about what I had shared? Not yet. Okay. Well, I just wanted to share something with everything that I saw today. It was just just more than I could ever think of what a beautiful person and experience that was given. I'm just overwhelmed with her goodness, and God the Father, God the Father, God this. We all want everyone to be a Christian. If you ever get an opportunity, that would be a good thing to look at.
Thank you, Shirley.
Oh, I mentioned it so many times and everything was not working. So I'm embarrassed. Thank you.
Okay.
It was amazing. It was an amazing time today. Thank you for it. And maybe someday I'll be able to get something going. But we'll see. Love you. Take care.
Okay.
Okay.
Carole, it was wonderful.
Thank you.
I kept going in and out, but I got most of it.
And it's recorded, Lynn, so you can see it probably, you know, easier if it's recorded.
Okay. Well, one of these days I want to see my birds up there.
Oh, you bet. That great heron is, oh my gosh, that's beautiful. Liz, when will the recording be available?
I'm thinking about a month. Gail, do you know how soon the recording would be available?
Somewhere between 2 weeks and a month. We'll have it up on the website. And okay. Carole, I will let you know when it's available.
Okay, thank you, Gail.
Good. Yeah. And Liz, I think we're coming up on 8 o'clock. Would you like to finish us up?
Okay. Well, thank you all for being with us tonight. This was really very interesting, and it was nice to have so many questions and comments at the end. Please join us next month for the 4th Artists in Conversation event on Thursday, June 30th at 7 with Wallingford artist Diane Chandler. And also, we're talking about this recording. The library has the recordings of all the other artists in conversations that we had last year and earlier this year. So if you care to see the variety of artists who have done these programs, you're welcome to do it, and you can just do it on the website. So again, thank you all for being here, and good night. Thanks, Carole. Great job.
Good night.
Thank you.
Thanks, Carol.
Thanks, Carol.